This week, House Speaker Mike Johnson appointed a couple of diehard Trump loyalists to the House Intelligence Committee. And we should pay close attention to this for a couple of reasons. To start with, the Intel Committee handles some of the most sensitive classified information there is, involving state secrets, foreign policy, the inner workings of the CIA and FBI. Speaker Johnson just appointed election-denying Congressman Scott Perry and alleged abuser Ronny Jackson to that committee. Let me tell you, those are two very problematic characters to have access to our nation's top secrets. And Congressman Perry was a bit of a poster boy for Trump's efforts to prevent Congress from certifying President Joe Biden's 2020 election victory. The FBI even confiscated his phone to investigate his role in that plot. 3 years later, thanks to Speaker Johnson, Perry will help oversee the FBI. Then there's Congressman Jackson, the former White House physician and member of the U.S. Navy, who was stripped of his military rank for allegedly making sexual and denigrating comments about a female colleague and abusing prescription medication. Congressman Jackson has called those accusations politically motivated, which sounds an awful lot like something Donald Trump would say. And that brings us to why Speaker Johnson's appointments are so egregious. And according to Punchbowl News, the Republican chair of the Intel Committee, Congressman Mike Turner, didn't even know about these appointments, because the Speaker of the House went around his own chairman at the behest of Trump, according to that report. And the Speaker is playing politics with this committee at a time when our intelligence community is dealing with threats from a range of places. Russia, as I was just talking about, China. And it's also engaged in high-stakes operations across the world and across two wars. Just this weekend, the Israeli military rescued 4 hostages from central Gaza in an operation that killed at least 274 Palestinians, according to Gazan officials. And we're learning that the U.S. assisted in providing intel that helped in the hostage rescue. So my point is the stakes are pretty high for the lawmakers who oversee our intelligence committee. They have pretty important roles. And by appointing Trump acolytes, Speaker Johnson is signaling that he's more interested in appeasing Trump than in protecting the Intel Committee's crucial work. Congressman Jim Hines is the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, and he joins me now. And I want to talk about those appointments, but I just want to start with the news from over the last 24 hours about the release of these 4, or the rescuing of these 4 hostages. And we've all seen those videos, incredibly touching, seeing people reconnect with their families. Now, Jake Sullivan this morning acknowledged that a ceasefire and hostage deal is the best way to get the remaining hostages out, in addition to, of course, ending this war. And I just wanted to ask you, I mean, can the rest of the hostages be rescued through military operations in your assessment? And how concerned are you if that is the planned approach, especially given the civilian death toll that we saw with this operation?
Yeah, good to be with you, Jen. The rescue operation was a remarkable operation, you know, in the tradition of Israeli special forces going back to the raid on Entebbe, where they, rescued civilians from a hijacked airliner in Africa. But the answer to your question is no. There's simply no way, these operations succeed because of exquisite planning, competence, but also luck. And, luck is not always on your side. Anybody who needs a reminder of that need just watch, the Mogadishu operation that led to the movie. So, no, that is not an option. The only option for the freeing of all of the hostages, of course, is for all parties to agree to a cessation of hostilities and a release of hostages. And, I know that Bill Burns and others are working away on that, but that's also a very, very heavy lift.
Prime Minister Netanyahu is addressing Congress next month, and the United States and even leaders within Israel, many, you included, have been pressing him for a clear plan on how we will end the war and what will happen in Gaza on the day after. This is something U.S. officials have been pressing for since the beginning. He seems to be ignoring these pleas while also proceeding with a military campaign. Is there more leverage you think the United States should be using to push Netanyahu to produce that plan? And what do you hope to hear from him when he is here next month?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there is more leverage. And it's terribly painful to talk about, much less apply, right? Because Israel was attacked here. And look, I've been critical of the way they have conducted the war, and there's plenty of room to be critical about that. But I guess at the core of this, Jen, is the fact that, there is no way for Israel to win this purely militarily, right? Hamas, disgusting terrorists though they may be, have a vision for a future. And it's a dark, horrible, evil vision. But my complaint with the prime minister, apart from the way he has conducted this war, I think, without enough sort of attention to the humanitarian situation, is that he has offered no alternative vision. He shot down the concept of a two-state solution. You cannot win this unless you participate or at least put forward some sense of hope for the future on the part of Palestinians. If you don't do that, they will adhere to the disgusting and dark vision that Hamas or others offers. And it's time for the prime minister to actually engage in what the future of the Palestinian people might and should look like.
Which he seems resistant, hesitant to all of the things to do. Well, let me ask you, let me just turn to the intel appointments, because you've spoken about this a little bit. I know and I believe you have a great deal of respect for the chairman, Turner. And it sounds like from the reporting he learned about those appointments to the committee through news reports. Have you talked to him specifically about this? Is that true?
Well, I don't want to get into my private discussions with the chairman. Look, one of the reasons I don't want to do that is because Chairman Turner and I have worked very hard, 24/7 for the last year, to reestablish the Intelligence Committee as a nonpartisan context in which people, though we have different ideologies and belong to different parties, where we are laser focused on the, probably never more critical job of making sure that the intelligence community is doing what it's doing. So, in the service of that, I'm not going to, open fire on these two new appointments. I'm just going to observe that, for generations, speakers of both parties have appointed the most serious-minded, the least flammable and volatile members. And now we see the appointment of two people with a history of, I would argue, putting Donald Trump's interests ahead of the national interest. Now, I'm not going to go further than that because I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, whether they deserve it or not, in the service of trying to keep this committee functional. But, Donald Trump, from the moment he became president, showed his disdain both for the intelligence community as well as for the truth that they are all about providing to power. So, again, this is very concerning, particularly when you saw Congressman Perry's statement about how, well, now the committee will finally do real oversight. What an insult to Chairman Turner and to the people who've been toiling in those vineyards for a very, very long time. So fingers crossed, but it's not a happy day for me anyway.